So there's 3 temperatures to remember. For any kind of poultry, whether it's chicken or turkey, whether it's ground or in pieces or even a whole bird, 165 is the temperature that you're looking for. For any kind of ground meat, and that includes beef, pork, lamb, the temperature you're looking for is 160. And then for steaks and chops and things like that, whether it's beef or pork or lamb, 145 is the minimum temperature on that. Use your thermometer. You want to try to insert it into the thickest part of the cut. For burgers or thinner cuts of meat, try to stick the thermometer in from the side, not from the top. That'll give you a better reading.
May is National Barbecue Month. And a Kansas State University food scientist says that while there are a number of food safety concerns associated with outdoor grilling, a meat thermometer is your best defense against any foodborne illness and checking for doneness. Karen Blakeslee, who is also coordinator of the university's Rapid Response Center, says digital instant read thermometers are the best type to use for grilling because the sensor is located on the tip of the thermometer, and it takes less than 10 seconds to get an accurate temperature reading. On today's Sound Living, food safety guidelines to keep the fun in outdoor eating. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. Blakeslee says the first step in getting ready for the outdoor grilling season, often associated with a Memorial Day weekend, is to clean the grate. This includes removing caked-on grease or food particles from the grate itself and from the grill area below the grate. Karen, maybe first off, just starting with the basics, and that means getting that grill cleaned and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely, because having a dirty grill or it's got caked-on grease and food left over from last year, that can also lead to fires. So you want to make sure you really brush it and scrub it good. They do have grill cleaners out there that you can spray on there and let them soak, and it helps remove a lot of that burnt-on residue. So get the grill clean, take the grate itself out, if it's possible. It should be possible, and get down inside your grill and get that cleaned out, because there's usually a bunch of leftover grease and burn-on food particles in there. So clean it out as best you can and get it ready for this year.
And if there's any rust, you should simply replace the grate?
It'd probably be a good idea, and you can get the grates replaced.
What about in terms of the brushes themselves? Because I've been reading some stories lately about people finding those little bristles in their food.
Yeah, that's something to just keep an eye on. If you've got a brush where the bristles, those little metal bristles on there are starting to come loose or break, it's time to throw it out and get a new one, because those may break off on the grate itself, and if you don't see them, those could get stuck on your food, and you may not see it on your food. And I certainly wouldn't want you to eat any of those. So be real careful about those. I know they work great at cleaning off, your grates, but if it's well used and the little bristles are bent or you see some that have broken off, it's time to get a new one.
And if you clean after you've eaten as part of the cleanup process, it makes it a little easier the next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do it while you've got it going. You can leave your grill on for a little bit, let it burn off some of that stuff. I think it tends to clean better when it's hot. But it also, even before you fire it up, give it an extra brush over before you get it started again, too, just as extra caution.
Do we also want to look around to see what may be near the grill?
Yeah, absolutely. Set your grill in an open area where it's not up against your house. Don't set it inside your garage, especially. So have an open area around it and on a stable ground, whether it's on your patio or on your deck or wherever, so it doesn't wobble, because you want it to set level. Try to be out there all the time when you're grilling. That's the other thing. Pay attention to what's going on out there, because if you leave it unattended, it could spark a fire that you may not be aware of. Or if you got kids or pets running around outside, they may accidentally tip it over, and then you've got another problem. So always be sure that you're out there with the grill.
We talk about having some water handy when we're camping or maybe tailgating, but probably just as important at home.
Yeah, water and even a fire extinguisher. Know where it is so that you can get to it quickly, and have, access to some water. Have a bucket of water sitting there if you don't have a hose available. So be mindful of those things.
Are there any considerations if you have a propane grill?
Make sure you check your hoses. Make sure there's no cracks so that they're not leaking. Check your propane tank. Make sure it's full, ready to go. Check the valves on those. Make sure they're okay and they're not leaking. Just give it a good once-over before you get going so you don't spark a fire that way.
The preparation takes a little bit of time getting this ready to go, but then once you do, you're finally ready to throw some things on the grill. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the doneness, because that's probably one of the biggest things for food safety, is making sure that especially beef is done.
Yeah, any kind of meat, really. And the best way to check for doneness is using a thermometer. So when you're getting your tools ready, whether it's your spatula, your tongs, your oven mitts, and things like that, grab that thermometer too. Really, the best type of thermometers to use for grilling are what we call instant read, the digital type thermometers, because the temperature sensor in those is right on the tip, the point of those thermometers. And so you'll get a really quick reading on it. Those type of thermometers will read in less than 10 seconds. So use that. That's really your best defense against any foodborne illness and checking for doneness. Don't rely on color because it's misleading. So the temperature is really the best way to check for doneness. So there's 3 temperatures to remember. For any kind of poultry, whether it's chicken or turkey, whether it's ground or in pieces or even a whole bird, 165 is the temperature that you're looking for. That's for any kind of poultry. For any kind of ground meat, and that includes beef, pork, lamb, the temperature you're looking for is 160. And then for steaks and chops and things like that, whether it's beef or pork or lamb, 145 is the minimum temperature on that. So again, use your thermometer. You want to try to insert it into the thickest part of the cut. For burgers or thinner cuts of meat, try to stick the thermometer in from the side, not from the top. That'll give you a better reading. So it's a real simple thing. Once you get in there, it takes less than 10 seconds, and you're done.
I think everybody's had one of those burgers that is charred on the outside and raw in the middle.
Yeah, and that's a function of controlling your heat. With a gas grill, it's a little easier to do. But with charcoal, you kind of have to move it around or move your charcoal around. It's a little more hands-on that. That's another thing to pay attention to. If you can move your rack up and down, that can also help with that. So watch your temperature, because you don't want to burn it before it's done. And actually, burnt meat is really not that good a meat. So pay attention to that.
And you need to be a little bit patient as well, because I think a lot of that occurs because there's still flames coming from the charcoal.
Oh, sure. And, when you're using charcoal, you want to make sure it's good and hot. I think the clue is to look for that ash color, that gray ash color, and it's usually glowing too. So you have to wait, obviously, when you're using charcoal. Gas grills are going to heat up faster. On those, you can cover up part of the grill burner itself, and there's ways to do that. You could even use a simple piece of aluminum foil, and that can help control your heat. So just pay attention to it, and that'll help you get some good meat in the end.
From a food safety standpoint, if you're trying to do the whole meal on the grill where you're looking at some vegetables as well, what are some tips that people should probably keep in mind?
Well, some vegetables take longer to cook than you think, like potatoes, for example. They take longer than you think. So something I like to do is just simply cut up a potato into strips, like steak fries. Put a little olive oil on them and put some seasoning on them and grill them that way. It may take 30 minutes or so to cook those. You could cut them up into chunks. They also have trays they look like a skillet with holes in them. And that will hold smaller pieces. So if you got mixed vegetables, throw those in there. I would suggest that you spray them with some nonstick spray first, because they might stick. And you're cooking everything outside, so you don't heat up your kitchen.
And we need to be careful about touching the meat and then touching the vegetables.
Well, yeah. The main thing on that is, if you're handling your raw meat with your tongs, don't use those same tongs that handled that raw meat with your vegetables. And that's especially true when you're cooking. Wash your tongs in between. If you put your raw meat on the grill, just use that for your raw meat and then go wash them, wash those tongs. Or if you have a separate set, use that instead. So have a couple sets of utensils.
I know a lot of people like to use marinades. Are there some things we should think about there?
Well, you can use about any marinade you want. The trick on that is to, once you've marinated your meat, if you do want to use it for like a sauce later, you want to heat it up and boil it for a few minutes just to make sure you kill any bacteria that could have been on that meat. Otherwise, just discard the marinade. So be careful about that. Be sure if you are going to use it, just make sure you heat it up before you put it on your cooked meat.
Does it matter how long we keep it in the refrigerator? Does that make a difference on quality?
Really, when you marinate meats, a good 30 minutes is kind of the rule of thumb. You could do it longer, but that marinade's only going to soak into that meat so far. So really, if you're marinating for overnight, it's going to only go to a certain point inside that meat. So a couple hours is probably good enough, and that would be plenty. But if you do any more than that, it might add a little extra flavor, but in some cases, it may even make your meat a little mushy, too. Depends on what's in your marinade.
Once we've had the meal and everything has been taken off the grill, we want to obviously eat fairly soon, and we want to make sure that we don't keep the food out too long as this weather gets warmer.
Right. Also, once you take your meat off, don't put it back on the plate that had the raw meat on it. Get out a new plate, put it on that, and eat it right away. Now, once it starts to get warmer and up into over 90 degrees, you can leave it out for an hour, but after that, I'd put it in the refrigerator. While it's still, springtime weather like we're having right now, 2-hour rule. Don't leave it out more than 2 hours. And then after that, get whatever you have left in the refrigerator.
Are there some sides that may be more susceptible to foodborne illness? I know a lot of people think about potato salad, deviled eggs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, deviled eggs would be one because that's a protein food, and eggs have been notorious of being a problem with foodborne illness. Potato salad gets a little bit of a bad rap, and everybody thinks it's from the mayonnaise, and it's really not the mayonnaise. Commercial mayonnaise is very acidic, and so it's not the mayonnaise that's the problem. It's whatever else you put in your potato salad, or even any kind of a meat salad, for that matter, like a chicken salad. It's those protein ingredients that can be a problem. So keep them cold until you're ready to serve, and then take them out. Go ahead and eat, and then follow the 2-hour rule and get them back in the fridge.
So really that ice chest may come in handy even at home.
Absolutely. If you've got a big gathering, that can help save space in your refrigerator for bigger items. Put all your beverages in the ice chest. That would be one way to save space in your refrigerator. Or if you have an extra refrigerator in your garage, that helps too. But be smart about what you have and use those tools.
Really what we're doing is we're taking the indoor rules and moving them outside.
Yeah, basically, you're recreating your kitchen outside. So if you have access to power outside, you could even have a little portable refrigerator out there just to have it for your gathering. Of course, you want to plug it in early enough to make sure it's cold. If it's in a covered area, that's even better, if it's underneath a deck or something like that. But ice chests work really well. And like I said, put those beverages in there. Keep those cold. But also use lots of ice. If you do have your salads and things out there, cover them up with some ice, and then you'll be fine.
Blakeslee says the most important tool for protecting your family from foodborne illness is a meat thermometer. She also recommends knowing the 3 temperatures for doneness. That's 165 degrees Fahrenheit for any type of poultry, whether it's chicken or turkey, and regardless if it's ground or whole. 160 degrees for any type of ground meat, including beef, pork, or lamb. And 145 degrees Fahrenheit for steaks and chops, whether it's beef, pork, or lamb. Karen Blakeslee is a food scientist at Kansas State University and the coordinator of the university's Rapid Response Center. More information on food safety can be found on the center's website, www.rrc.k-state.edu, rrc.k-state.edu. Information is also available at county and district extension offices and on the extension website, www.ksre.ksu.edu, ksre.ksu.edu. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.